you know, as well, the media doesn't even give you any wider context to that. It's just, oh, look at here. This is purely coincidental that they just declared a dictatorship, and this was one of the countries that Donald Trump was willing to go to make peace. This is very strange. And look at here. Here's another country that Donald Trump ended a regime change war, but all of a sudden things just happen. Like it is so maddening watching US media on this stuff. And it's even more maddening on Syria in the way that they cheer it. If you remember, like CNN did this interview with Jelani, where it was the softball interview of a jihadist. It would be like if you were interviewing a Nazi and you don't bring up the fact that they're a Nazi. It is very bizarre. It's like, yeah, I went through this phase while I was chopping off heads, but you know, that was just my 20s and now I'm a better person. Okay. Sure. And that was this kind of like, oh, I've changed, I've moderated, I'm diversity friendly now. I just want a free democratic Syria. I just believe in joy. It is the wildest
Jaguar advertisement. That's what ISIS going to have a Jaguar advertisement where a bunch of people in different colors come out and they play some weird techno music or something. They're going to like cut off the head of a I don't know, a dummy or something like that, you know. They're going to change the ISIS flag. It'll be like a rainbow flag. And it'll be just like an I and an S at the beginning, like Jaguar has the J and the G. That's what. In fact, they'll probably get like Jaguars. Pub PR people will move to Syria and be hired by ISIS. I think that's the direction.
Oh, you don't even need Jaguars people. You have CNN to do that.
Yeah, right.
CNN, and I want to play this clip. This is Ritter when he was on the show the other day. Ritter had said something. I think he was on Judge Natch, and I asked him to expand upon it because it is wild, and it puts what I'm going to show in context. He was talking about how, you know, when he was a weapons inspector, that CNN, they had already prepared a war room, even though the war hadn't even started yet, that they were basically working arm in arm with the CIA in order to sell the war. This is Ritter. Listen to what he says here. One last question. It's something you said about CNN. CNN interviewed Jelani, and they basically interviewing a terrorist to softball the fact that the man was a head chopping terrorist. You pointed out that you were in the room as they were setting up, I guess, propaganda exercises like that. Could you go into that? We have about 1 or 2 minutes before the next guest comes on, but please go into that.
No, just in 2002, I was invited to the headquarters of CNN in Atlanta. I had just come back from Iraq, where I spoke to the parliament, and also had just, you know, I'd been advocating for the return of weapons inspectors, and then, you know, Saddam Hussein said we're going to let weapons inspectors back in, and I take credit for at least playing a part in putting that thought in the minds of the Iraqi government and helping convince them it's the right thing to do. So CNN, after attacking me, brought me in and had a big panel who interviewed me and all that, and the CEO and the director of their news operations stands up and goes, Scott Ritter is cleared now. He can go on. He's passed the purity test. And then he takes me and he goes, let me show you what we're doing here. And he takes me and he shows me the war room. And we're talking October 2002. The war room. Already hotlines to the Pentagon, already reporters getting trained and prepared to be embedded in invasion forces. CNN is getting ready to be the propaganda arm of the Defense Department as they go into an Iraqi invasion that hadn't been approved yet. Hadn't been officially approved. The president was still saying we're working for peace, but CNN already knows what the outcome is going to be. They're prepared. I was also working with CNN, or when the CIA brought CNN in when I was a weapons inspector, to create a propaganda film about the weapons inspections. CNN and the CIA are the same, and this.
CNN and CIA are the same. All right. So Ritter is effectively saying, look, these groups work arm in arm. They're working in tandem. So when I see this woman, this is Clarissa Ward. Clarissa Ward at one point talked about how she was, I want to use the term radicalized. She didn't use the term radicalized. I'm using that term. But effectively saying that she didn't believe that the administration was doing enough against Syria, meaning she's a news person saying, I didn't believe that the administration was doing enough. And she starts sending nasty emails to some of the people in power because they weren't doing enough in Syria. She goes, this is the same woman who smelled or sniffed the the Syrian chemical weapons thing, and she was like sniffing garments that were supposed to be infected with chemical weapons. She was the one that had the fake Hamas attack where she dives to the ground even though nobody was hitting her. So she is now in Syria doing propaganda work. They have already cleared the prisons. Several days later, after they cleared the prisons, she shows up at the prisons and finds a guy, just so happened, in the prison lying on the mat. This is just outrageous. I mean, I'm going to play this.
I can't tell though. It might just be a blanket, but it's the only cell that's locked. Is he going to shoot it?
The guard makes us turn the camera off while he shoots the lock off the cell door. We go in to get a closer look. It's still not clear if there is something under the blanket.
Oh, it moved. Is there someone there?
And then she proceeds to have a conversation with the guy that she finds under the blanket 5 days later after everybody had been cleared from the prisons. One of the first things they did was empty the prisons. And yet they have to shoot it open, go in. It's clearly an empty prison, but there's one guy left. He just didn't want to leave. This is outrageous. Like, they are selling the stuff to the public as if this is such a great day, while completely ignoring the people who are being killed, the people who are being stabbed, shot, dragged through the streets, the ISIS flags that are being raised. I mean, they're ignoring all of the horrible stuff that is happening right now and focusing on, here's a guy that was in prison. Here's a woman who speaks perfect English, who said she loves to be under an Islamic law state. Give me a take on this, Garland.
Two things. Number one, and this is from my, in law enforcement, and I've trained firearms and trained people and all of that. You know how you're watching a movie and there's some guy and he's 6'5" and he's 285 pounds of solid muscle, and the woman who's the star walks up behind him and hits him in the back of the neck somewhere with a karate chop about this hard. And he goes down and he's unconscious. Like in the movies, all you have to do is like go blink in somebody's back and they go down and they're unconscious, right? And then she picks up his gun and moves along, right? That's the equivalent of shooting a lock off of it. That's the stupidest thing in the world. Think about this. You are in a room and you're firing a weapon and you don't know where that bullet's going to go. And you're going to shoot it and it's going to ricochet off of that lock and go ping, 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 ping. And you're likely to get hit by it at some point and killed. Number one. Number two, the round in your weapon is made of lead, which is a soft metal. And locks are made of really super hardened steel. If you shoot a lock with a weapon, you're not shooting the lock off. The bullet is going to break up, ricochet, fragment, and the lock is going to have a smudge on it at the most. So this is a fake thing that you would do in a movie. You know what they should have did? They should have had 10 ISIS guys run at her and she should have like chopped them and went blink. And they should have all like passed out immediately from the power of her mighty chop. It's an absurdity. He shot the lock off. Number one, in Syria, they don't, what do they hang a master lock on the jail? When they showed it, the jails slide closed and they have like internal locks where the thing comes out. This slides into the wall and this thing like locks in, right? So where does the bullet shoot the lock off? There's not a lock to be shot off. It goes into the wall. So yes, they shot the lock off, which shows you that this is a staged fraud. It's just like Hollywood. There's no such thing as shooting locks off. You don't shoot locks off. You can't shoot a lock off. You can't shoot. It would be like, yes, he took a baseball bat and knocked the hardened steel lock off. It's absurd. So what we're looking at is here. So let me simplify. It's like you said. The reason that people are watching Jamal Thomas and Garland Nixon and Jimmy Dore and George Galloway and Alexander McCorris is because of that crap. Everybody, I always say I'm not like some genius philosopher. The people like us are regular everyday people who try to read and figure these things out. And regular everyday people can look at CNN and figure out at some point, well, this is not media. This is a propaganda operation for the U.S. empire. That's all it is. It's an imperial propaganda operation. People have figured it out, and now they'd rather watch Jamal Thomas in the morning, because while Jamal Thomas is, doesn't have 10 years and as the director of national intelligence like half of the people on CNN, he can read and figure things out, and at least he's trying to be honest. It's what a joke to watch that. It's absurd.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, they're not scared of ISIS. They're going to Syria, and they're not afraid of violence. Someone has guaranteed their security, so they don't have to worry about terrorism or anything. So that's it. We don't have media anymore in the United States. We have intelligence operations. We have propaganda. This is Voice of America disguised as CNN, MSNBC, Fox, etc. And that's why in the tens of thousands, they're out of there, and they're watching regular old people like us who have a bookshelf or something in the back, in an old broken down drone.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's pretty wild when you think about it. I guess I didn't even notice the lock thing. Your former profession gave you that take. I was a software engineer, so
Shot the lock off.
Yeah, she shot the lock. Like, it's a Hollywood thing. That's a movie thing, right? That's what you do in the movies, where you're like, you need to get the person out. You just shoots the lock and the door opens and you grab the person and you go. And in real life, yeah, Ricochet, they were concerned about that. They were concerned about any of that stuff. Who knows where that bullet would have went? What if he would have missed? Like, I don't know if you do that in real life.
And never.
Yeah.
Never. Who would shoot? And like, locks are hardened steel. And they're harder than bullets. I mean, that's what they're made for. It's a lock. Even a cheap master lock is hardened steel. And what is a bullet? It's lead. And even if it was a full metal jacketed bullet, what are the odds that you're going to hit it just in the right spot? And what is the right spot? And is it like, can you jar? I mean, it's just absurd, other than in a Hollywood movie, to say that somebody shot the lock off. And even when you saw them open the door, there was not like a little hinge with like where the lock used to be. It goes into the wall. The lock is in the wall. The locking mechanism is on the wall. Would you shoot the wall?
But again, like I said, Saint Clarissa Ward, same person who said she was radicalized in Syria, and I'm using the term radicalized because she effectively said, "Look, I thought that our administration wasn't doing enough in Syria," and it's like, what? Who the hell are you? Like, how are you a journalist and your response is, we should be doing more here? You're supposed to just be reporting. You're supposed to be on the ground. You're not supposed to be an asset working to try to overthrow a government, for God's sake. It's just outrageous. And so now, I suppose this is her moment. She's like, I always thought we should have been more involved. I always thought we should have been trying to overthrow that government. And damn it, now that he's gone, it's my time to shine. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do the CIA's work. Yeah, I agree with you, man. It is absurd. It is outrageous. And it comes across purely as a movie set. It looks like, and maybe that's why they do it that way. Like, meaning, it's kind of like if you wanted to trick people, you trick them with what they're familiar with. And what they're familiar with is, in the movies, you shoot the lock. It's that stuff.